I would really like to introduce Sean the second time around. We're really privileged, as Tristan pointed out. He has exceptional experience and knowledge, and you'll see it coming tonight. He designed something like 10,000 or more affordable dwellings, has won just about yearly awards. And tonight we'll be helping to answer all these questions as they come up. Tonight we have two particular people that we're very pleased with. We have John Wheeler, who comes from Cape May County in New Jersey, is up in the southern area, which is warm by comparison. And contrasting that, we have Tom Brankner, who's from Hunterdon County up in frigid New Jersey, northern sections. So you'll see this night and day difference between the two. So you'll be introduced to them later on. So with that, Sean, I'd like to turn the meeting back to you to take over.
Excellent. Okay. So, let's see here. Stop share there. I have a few different things open I want to show y'all. Okay. So first, I just presented this last Thursday to the American Institute of Architects. There's like 400 architects. And I'm going to show you things that are very relevant to each of your own home's design challenges. So this is an off-grid apartment complex design in Petaluma, which is the North Bay of California. This area has cold winters, hot summers, not super cold, but we're like, 30, 27. It gets icy. And this apartment complex, the challenge we have in Northern California is that the fires, the climate change induced fires that started in 2017, my mother-in-law died in the Santa Rosa fire in 2017, that these fires have made it so that our infrastructure keeps on burning down while at the same time it's trying to get undergrounded. And at the same time, we're trying to electrify transportation and buildings. It's causing lots of clogs and dumping solar into the grid, distributed solar, grid-tied solar, batteries, large amounts of computing power, large amounts of indoor cultivation. Just it's a hot mess. So I comment this from a background I lived in an off-grid house on campus when I was in college at Humboldt State, which is a center for environmental engineering in the country. And so I studied how to incorporate renewables. I was a high school science teacher, a project manager for affordable housing developers, and we innovated the first zero to energy apartments that have been getting bigger and bigger projects. So I'm going to show you things that PAE and ourselves worked out. First, here's my client, Dan Johnson. This is what he looks like. He's like, can you help us get a project off grid? PG&E is the #1 problem for all of our developments. As he says that, his vice president says that, everyone's like, this is totally real. And so my response is like, yeah, we totally can. This has been going on for quite a while. Not only that house that I had, the funky house on campus, but for quite a while, they've been floating around in these off-grid boats. It's also houseboats like in Europe and the Netherlands and the canals and such. So this is a 120-foot long yacht. It's got the outdoor hot tub and movie screens. It comes with jet skis, comes with a submarine. That little airplane that you saw there, that's just photoshopped in. But they say next year they're going to have an artificial intelligence, super awesome little self-flying small airplane for flying into Santa Monica. So then we also know that over in the Netherlands, in Utrecht, Netherlands has been taking this seriously. They banned gas in new construction in 2016, long before anyone in the United States did that, which is Berkeley, the first one in 2019. They have been going at this with how do we get all of our wind power that's coming in at different times of the day and our solar, how do we balance that? And they said, okay, we have to put in 14,000 vehicle to building, vehicle to grid chargers in our city. They have 1,000 of them now. These are bi-directional. So electricity can come out of the car. You can charge your car during the day with these special rates. Go to these chargers. You got 1,000 in, 14,000 to go. It's a city of like 150,000 people. So you see the sort of the ratio, 1,000 bidirectional chargers for every 10,000 residents. So these batteries are huge. Batteries in the United States right now, we have, there's 80 times more batteries on wheels as there are attached to people's homes, like Powerwalls and LG Chem. 80 times more. And there's more than it's like 4 to 5 times more batteries on wheels than there is grid supporting batteries, just those big fields of batteries next to whatever. So the batteries in vehicles are are the batteries of the United States. You can add all the other batteries in there and you haven't got to half as much battery as there is on wheels right now. And that's true throughout the world. So we're looking at the climate. So like on the upper left-hand corner, those are averages. That's good to know about averages. And then in the middle, we got like, okay, what about cloudy weather? You know, the non-average weather. On the right-hand side, then you start to see, well, what happens with the extremes then, both cloudy weather or super hot, sunny weather? We have to plan for all of that in this little microgrid you might think of. But it's not so much a microgrid as it is off-grid. And then we had different envelopes. So you can see that in blue, that is a less efficient envelope, like the windows and walls and such. The green, that in the wintertime, which is the left-hand side and the right-hand side are the winter. It goes from like January to December. So you're seeing left and right-hand side. In blue, that's telling you that the less efficient envelope's going to use more energy than a more efficient envelope. But you can also see that it's not like crazy different. And we actually, in the summertime, we get a little bit more energy from air conditioning in some circumstances. We have more internal heat gain with these small apartments that are then super efficient. So we need actually a little bit more air conditioning. But the fact is that it's the winter time when we have 1/3 to 1/4, even 1/5 as much sunshine on a sunny day than in the peak of summer. That's when we have to design for efficiency, because this is a solar only project, doesn't have any offshore wind or something contributing. What that looks like, the products, is like on the left-hand side, this is a combined washer dryer. It's more efficient. They've just come out with a heat pump version of them. The heat pump is a reversible air conditioner. Air conditioners are a heat pump, technically, but they only go in one direction. They make air conditioning on the inside. But you can just reverse the fluid flow and make it so that it's bringing heat inside as opposed to pulling heat outside. Same product, adds about 10% to the cost of an air conditioner to make it a reversible air conditioner. So we have these 120 volt, plug it in anywhere. So they don't need 240 volt. They don't need a lot of instantaneous power. They're designed to not have instantaneous power. So it's 120 volt, lower power, and it's relatively, and it's all efficiency in its designs. So like a 500 watt water heater, not a 4,500 watt water heater. It's a 1,200 watt washer dryer, not a 7,200 watt. These are 1,400 watt space heating systems. Well, they could be more like 2,500 watts if they were less efficient. So the same thing on the right-hand side. So the idea is that, or actually they could be even like 4,500 watt or 5,000 watt for the same amount of tonnage when they have to go into electric resistance mode. These strategies for going off-grid are the same products and strategies you would consider for your own house, avoiding electric resistance. That's going to make everything easier. Your whole design process is you don't use electric resistance backup, quote unquote. You just use other good strategies. In this case, we're maximizing the whole project for solar. All the roofs, that's code compliant. Then we're putting in carports, so it keeps off the hot sun in the summertime. Also helps with like flood times in the winter. Get that water someplace else, not flooding the cars, hopefully. And then on the left-hand side, you can see we're also using, these look like bricks, but they're actually solar panels. And so you can make solar panels that are just glass that's tinted to look like anything, a mural, make it look like brick or rock or whatever. It's just perfectly printed to look like that, and it's still producing a lot of sunshine. So you can see the balance of it. That's not for your home retrofit, but you should just know this. Mitrex, a company out of Canada, they've been making siding forever, and now they're making solar panel siding. Great stuff. It's all UL listed, fire rated, everything about it's done. Batteries, hot topic. I just mentioned to you earlier how much more battery there is on wheels than there is on buildings. It's an 80-to-1 ratio. Well, it shows up in pricing. If you're going to get 7.5 Tesla Powerwalls, that price there of $130,000 when you've installed it, keep in mind it's maybe like $70,000, $80,000 of battery that you purchased, but you have to install it, and it's expensive to install these things, versus factory installed batteries on wheels. And so this Ford F-150 Lightning, it comes automatically with a 7.2, which is what an electric resistance dryer uses. 30 amps at 240 volt. It comes with a lot of power. It comes with a 240 volt generator that you can essentially plug into your house now in PG&E territory. They've approved it. There's a little collar that's for it, but you can plug it in. There's a lot of products that would manage this, not just PG&E's little collar. So the cost is half as much though. That's the thing. The truck, $57,000. Even if you spent $10,000, which you wouldn't, you'd spend $3,000 or $5,000. But even if you spent 10 grand, it's still about half as much. If you just get a truck, or if you get a Hyundai Ioniq, which are being used in Utrecht, like I showed you back here. Those are all Ioniq 5s. They all have like a vehicle to load capability where they give electricity back out on purpose by design. So how this is going to work out, how this is working out globally as a phenomenon, not just in California, not just on the East Coast or in Europe, is that people, in this case tenants, with vehicle to building electric vehicles, sorry for the acronyms, vehicle to building or vehicle to grid, will be offered free charging or low-cost charging, in our case free charging during daylight hours, when the project solar panels are producing more than the system can handle. It might just, go into the dirt if we couldn't put it into vehicles. And in return, for small amounts of power that lead up to and during prolonged bad weather, so we'll charge the batteries, our big battery in the project, off these little batteries. You can see the same way that we're charging the grid, like a little bit from each vehicle, maybe 15 miles of driving worth. That's what I mean by a little bit. Taking a little drive to the grocery store. The last slide here shows you our strategies. There's the base strategy of like just a little bit of solar and then a bunch of purple grid electricity. And then we have like 3 different options where we're getting about 2 to 5% of our electricity from the grid or from vehicles. That's our either or option. Maybe we get 5% of all the electricity we need in the year, almost all of it just in the wintertime, from vehicles contributing in. And this is not futuristic. As I said, this is already happening everywhere. It's been happening since 2011, since the Fukushima earthquakes, that disaster over in Japan. So that's the end of that presentation. And if anyone has any questions just about that for a moment, that's sort of like the neatest, most advanced thing I'm doing to try to show how to get around to having to hook up with PG&E, which delays our construction so much that affordable housing projects can't get built now. Like, and I mean that literally in Petaluma, they were denied building permits because PG&E just couldn't handle the problem. Trying to get these things hooked up. Let's see here. Now, Tim, you say, can I convert an oil burning boiler, hot water baseboard heating system to electric system utilizing the latest heat pumps? To baseboard heating system is your question. Okay. Yes, you can, but can we replace your baseboard heaters with something efficient, please? So I'm gonna share my screen here just for kicks. I did my thing, like I wanted to show you that. I'm gonna just quickly show you an answer to one of the questions. Then we'll go back into the case studies, the next part where I keep on talking. But so Yaga, Jaga, they make heat pump friendly baseboard heaters. They're called efficient convectors. So I'm going to click the efficient convectors. Okay, so efficient convectors, they run at 130, 120, even down to 80 degrees Fahrenheit water. You can put in a very efficient heat pump, which likes to work at lower temperatures like 130 Fahrenheit. And you can pair it with these radiators that like to work at 130 or less Fahrenheit. Then you get to use the easy, cheap heat pumps that we have for the job you're asking, which are made by companies like Space Pack. Space Pack is a heat pump company, among others, like Chiltrex, right? But Space Pack, they do these, as do other companies, the Solstice Inverter Extreme. This right now, I believe, is the coldest climate product that's being offered, which would be perfect for New Jersey. It's an air to water heat pump that would sit outside. It would make water at about 130 degrees Fahrenheit, as it says. So comparing the space pack for hydronic systems, where you're going to deliver hot water through the walls, that works well if you have the Yaga efficient convectors. It can work well if you have convectors that have a fan blowing in them. But what it doesn't do well is like 160, 170 degree water. Those kinds of heat pumps are specialized products still for apartment complex mostly. Apartment complexes like 170-degree water. And you don't live in an apartment complex. So getting a 12-ton heat pump from Trane for your 4-pump house is not a good idea. It's super expensive. So that would be my my solution for you as an example. And Chiltrex is another brand, Arctic is another brand, and we can get into that. Okay. So for those of you who have hydronic systems, that is a very reasonable answer to the question. Hold on for a sec here while I bring up their case studies. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the Wheeler house. It's Seaville, Cape May Community, New Jersey. Got climate zone 4. The 1993 house, it's, we just moved in. That's nice. So 1% cooling. Now they have a geothermal heat pump that went in about 14 years ago. They've got solar electric, great. So it's making their electricity very low cost. So if they're electrifying additional things, terrific, low cost electricity. Now they've got a 19 kW Generac gas fuel generator used for backup that runs everything on R30. No, that just runs everything, pardon me. Now, let us recall the presentation I just gave you, which is like grant funded, tons of us researchers. Like this is a Noah's Ark of researchers. We're all working on the question together. I just gave you what I think is the most energy efficient, resilient, low cost battery way of doing things. And so when I look at this 19 kW Generac gas fueled generator, I said, well, the Ford, that F-150 Lightning runs 19.2 kW through its inverter. So you could have a Ford, which has 7.5 Tesla Powerwalls in it, and that would also be half as expensive as installing those Tesla Powerwalls. That was with that like $63,000 or $67,000. I said it costs 10 grand. Well, I know that the Ford sells for $1,300. That the inverter that you need, a 19.2 kW inverter from the Ford, custom designed for this. You could just have a Ford drive up and dump in 7.5 Tesla Powerwalls worth of electricity for half the cost with a Ford matching inverter just for this job that you're asking it for. Power everything in the house, essentially, all at once. Go for it. Knowing, by the way, that generally houses don't peak past about 7.2 kW, which is 30 amps, 30, 35 amps. That's what the majority of homes are at, all electric homes. And people go up to 80. So you could have a 19 kW peak load. But point is that the Ford F-150 would be your cheapest solution to that by half. And it's designed for that job. So here's the house. That's a nice house. It's got solar panels on the roof. We know it's got a ground source heat pump. Okay, so we talked before about how the F-150 Lightning, now it has a 35, just getting in here, it has a gas water heater in the basement. Now, the water heater that I showed you, that 500-watt water heater, that generally is what I would recommend. But because the basement could get too cold, getting one of those same water heaters, a heat pump water heater that has some electric resistance backup, that'd probably be good. And let me show everybody just for a moment. I'm going to back out of this slide. So let's talk about water heaters for just a second. Pardon me. Now, there's a resource that I'm going to get, because this is all going by pretty fast. I know. And I'm gonna just walk you through the resource instead of blowing your mind so quickly. Oh, now redwoodenergy.net research has all these guides that were paid for by a nonprofit that we wrote so that the Bay Area folks, and then a Michigan utility hired us for a winter version, which meant that we always kept all of our winter understanding in our guides that followed it. So the guide that has almost all the questions that you have answered is this pocket guide to all electric retrofits of single family homes on redwoodenergy.net. So you go to the guide and you say, I would like to know about water heaters. Okay, so here's the cover, and it's got like a smart hot linked, I think it does, uh, a table of contents here. It's got tons of examples of different homes from all over the country, including ground source heat pumps, where it's already written up and everything's kind of perfect. Okay, good. It does. If you just hit domestic hot water, it brings you to the domestic hot water heat pump page, and it's showing, like, if you have an outside situation, you can use the Sandco 2. If you have inside situation, if it's still warm enough in the winter, you can run just a heat pump inside. And here's these products. That's what's nice about this booklet. It's like, oh, Stiebel Eltron, that's made in Vermont. It's the highest end of all of them, and it's been going since 1985. They've been making them, the longest in our country. But you pay a premium of like $1,000. Rheem, kind of the cheapest. They're a little bit louder at 55 decibels. A.O. Smith, they're offering a 45 decibel product. So that the way you experience that is it's 1/4 as loud. The way that it comes out in cost is that the Rheem, if you're going to put it like in your closet, in the house, which is a great place to put a heat pump water heater. And if you're going to do that, the Rheem, you need to have it on an anti-vibration pad, and you need to put insulation inside that closet and a vented door, perhaps. It's got a little louver on the top and a little 1/4 inch cut up underneath so it can get some air moving through it. But you need to acoustically isolate it versus the A.O. Smith, the much quieter one. You don't have to do so much work. You don't have to worry about that. And Bradford White, which is essentially more like the Rheem. It's sort of like lower cost and has a little bit less invested in its quietness. Okay. Oh, and the last one to think about though is that what if you're the kind of person who has like a gigantic rain shower? That's fine. Those water heaters all can handle like the 2.5, 3.5 gallon per minute rain showers, like the huge waterfall experience. But if you have like 100-gallon eggshell bathtub, or one of those ones where like the jacuzzi jets come in, that's like a big bathtub, then what you want is by Eco 2, the Sandco 2, this big heat pump. It produces 4 times as much hot water and has a much bigger fan inside. All this is basically the size of the fan. That's how much heat it can collect from the air. But it also has a better refrigerant that boils at these refrigerants all boil at -35 or so Fahrenheit. This one boils at -10, a -110, pardon me. So it just can absorb way more heat, even on a super cold day. It's like, keep it going. -30, no worries. So this one also produces 4 times as much hot water, as I'm saying, and it does it at crazy low temperatures. So these are kind of your options, basically, in the United States. The brands have every year they come up with a new long number and symbol, but that's what you got. Okay? And all these ones, they can go inside, and if they're inside in a warm place, you don't need electric resistance backup at all. You can use that one I was showing you, the 500 watts, 120 volt, plugs in anywhere, easy peasy pie. But if you're putting it into a basement, you might want to have an electric resistance element backup, which turns it into 240 volts, you know. But well, I mean, an unconditioned basement, like ones that already kind of freeze, if it's like close to that, like at 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's only the water heater keeping the basement warm, this is going to be a water heater that keeps the basement cold and dries it out so it doesn't have as much mildew and wetness. It's a dehumidifier also. Okay. going back, and I'm relying on Tom to be answering questions for a moment while I'm doing the slides.
Yep, I'm keeping up with some.
Oh, thank you, Tom. I'm
Oh,
also
and folks are saying it's a little hard to hear you. If you can check out
oh,
your mic position.
it's Zoom is always doing this to me. Now you can hear me, right? This is much better.
Yes.
I apologize. Zoom attacks me almost every day by turning down my volume. I think it has opinions of me being a loud talker, because I am, but somehow it's always responding this way. All right. Electrifying the 35-year-old gas dryer with a combination washer dryer for use. Now, we're all really excited about this because there is a new washer dryer in town, and it's General Electric. I'm going to bring it up on my search engine. It's heat pump washer dryer. Okay, it's called Ultra Fast. And I'm going to stop share. I'm going to start a new share. Here it is. So Ultra Fast, the Ultra Fast combination, it's not just laundry, it's one and done. Ta-da! So this machine, most of the world uses combined washer and dryers because they're frequently in old apartments that have limited power supply. The United States has the most robust power supply in the world, basically the most power delivered per house, and has since 1962. The United States was also like kind of the inventor of the electric grid in the United States, and then it spread throughout the world, but not exclusively, but like Tesla and Westinghouse, just go down this long list of names. They're Americans, and there's a huge amount of the grid here. But in the rest of the world, less power meant that people were getting combined washer dryer machines, which functionally mean they have a really fast spin cycle to get rid of water, faster than United States machines. They always had front loaders in other countries, and top loaders spin so much slower that you have to do much more drying energy. This is a heat pump, so it is using 1/3 the electricity of electric resistance, and it's a washing machine. It does both. So you can, to be honest, my house, because I have a 7-person household, and one of them is a farmer who gets completely filthy in like, she's an animal farmer. So, that's different. That's a different kind of dirt, if you know what I mean. So we have both a washer dryer and an electric resistance dryer, these two together. And that means that we can wash quickly with the washing machine here with a great spin cycle, get it into the dryer and get it going drying faster, while then doing another load and having it get dried at the same time on just the existing 120-volt outlet. And this has allowed us to deal with sometimes humongous amounts of laundry from kids and farming. Assuming you're not like me, like an actual rural farmer with 33 acres of livestock and everything that comes out of them, this would be what I would recommend just generally. It's sort of like our best of our heat pump dryers that are coming out with a well-thought access point here for the filter. All washers and dryers have filters. You need to clean your filter. This is a relatively easy access. Some of the early first generation heat pump dryers, you had to like take things out to get to the filter, which is crazy. So they solved that some years ago. Good product here. Okay, so that would be one of the things I'd recommend. Now, going back to the guide, I'm just going to show you that. Let's see here. Bum, 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 bum. Oopsie. Laundry dryers. Okay. I was showing you before how electric resistance here in orange uses, a lot more energy. Now, you can see that there's heat pumps in the middle. There's even condensing washer dryers and heat pumps that are at the very bottom. But the very lowest consuming are small loads. That's the trick. if you can get a washing and drying machine that has a smaller amount of air that it heats up, that is the most efficient, just so you know. There's a lot of energy that's wasted in big loads. These are combination condensing washer dryers out there. LG has the best, and it's the one that I have currently. I'd like to get that GE I just showed you. Here are single purpose heat pump dryers that use half to 1/3 as much. They come in different capacities. Just note that Kenmore and Whirlpool have the 7.4 cubic capacity. So those are going to use more energy because they have more capacity. But if you're like a person who launders dog bedding or something, then maybe you need a big one. And then there are standard electric resistance dryers that are 240 volt. You guys all know about those. And there are a few that are 120 volt that just are not efficient and they take a long time. But some people just need that because they're cheap. They're like, $300, $400 dryers, $600 for a really big one. Okay, now I'm showing you that booklet because I know it's going fast. And Tom is down there to answer questions. Now, if you're going to add a Chevy Bolt or Nissan Leaf, and it says also two-way, those bi-directional chargers that we were talking about, right now, I'm going to show you the bi-directional chargers in the booklet. Boom, ba-dum. Because there's a lot of them out there right now. The one that's Wallbox, Decibel, and Enphase. Those are the three big names I'm going to bring forward. Home to vehicle and vehicle to home. Here we go. Stop share, new share. And so here in the booklet, it gives you a conversation about vehicle to home and home to vehicle charging. So these are neat. Wallbox, Asiaco, which has the decibel. They're all into music, so Asiaco is a musical term. Decibel, obviously, they have other things. If you go to their website, they're just really into music. Nuvve is doing this right now for, Nuvve is partnered with Wallbox for the home version, and Nuvve has in the United States ones for school buses because they're turning schools into resiliency hubs. So the school buses can power the school during a blizzard, power the school during a post-earthquake, post-tornado, post-wildfire, name your disaster. Fermata is all over Eurasia and keeps on teasing us, saying they're going to bring something to the United States. But Wallbox, Asiaco, and Nuvve are here. And Enphase, which is our nation's largest solar inverter manufacturer, they are making one that coordinates with their specific Enphase microinverters, the small ones that go on the back of the panels that are essentially the dominant way that inverting solar panels is done in the United States. Not the only way, but they're coming out with one as well. Now, these are ones on the other side of the oceans, just so you know. Okay, so now back to our question. Oh, this is starting with, this is nicely organized here. We'll just work on this going forward. So the heating and cooling, desired outcome, and an air source heat pump for the garage. What does NC stand for? Tom, did you take down that notation?
Yep, yeah, so that was no change.
So
Oh.
just leave the geothermal as it is.
So you couldn't just write out no change, huh? You had to make a new abbreviation.
Yep.
Okay. So, and plus the air source heat pump for the garage, can you weigh in on that one? Are you talking about adding a new air source heat pump? Is that what I was understanding there?
Yes.
Okay. So air source heat pump for the garage. Let's go stop share, new share, going back to the little booklet.
And so in the case studies, the two case studies I think we're looking at tonight, they both have 200 amp electric panels.
Oh, so we don't have to worry that much.
Right, and they're both very interested in ground source heat pumps. One already has one in, the other client owns a backhoe and is ready to dig, to put his own in, and he's also an HVAC contractor and electrical contractor. So we've got some kind of unique guests on the show tonight.
Cool, cool. Okay. So for all y'all, there are a lot of options on HVAC. Geothermal on the far right-hand side, we're going to focus here. But hydronic, we talked about that as I want to answer one of the questions live there. This is Chiltrex, and this is a smaller system, like a 2-ton system for a smaller hydronic house that has the right radiators or has a hydronic floor. But this Chiltrex and Spacepack, they don't work with baseboard heaters or those like old-fashioned radiators. You need to have new efficient radiators. Okay, through wall systems, everyone has those crummy like air conditioners that are in the window. This is a fancy version, but we're using them in all of our apartments because they're under $4,000 per room, and using a ductless mini split is $5,000 a room. Same pretty much as a ducted system, which might be closer to $6,000 per room. So portable and windows, there's just not a whole lot of good products yet to talk about. I'm working hard on that with manufacturers. And then ducted systems, and this is kind of a classic old school. There's an air conditioner that's outside now. You take that air conditioner out, you put a heat pump that looks the same and just go up to where the air conditioner is and stick in the heat pump version. Now you're heating and cooling. Okay, but let's go to geothermal. Okay, so this is the classic style central ducted heat pumps. If you're doing one, I'll just mention Carrier is excellent with its cold climate products these days and high efficiency, United States made. I'm gonna skip that for a sec. 120 volt air handlers. If it's just a hassle to run 240 volt up to where you have an air handler, it's nice to know that there are 120 volt ones that just plug into any old outlet, any old circuit around there. So mini splits, here's some pricing. Going past that, because I'm getting to the ground source. These are ductless mini splits, and these are the ones that go terrific for super cold environments, -30, that kind of stuff. You can get here like hair. And I would generally push people towards an air source heat pump for lowering cost. These folks have ground source heat pumps, bless their hearts. But for new construction or people who are on budgets, generally it's lower cost until you get into central Canada to get an air source heat pump if you're just starting out from scratch. And ground source heat pumps generally also restricted to like 130 Fahrenheit water. So you don't really get away from that problem of needing to do new radiators or just do a different type of heating system like a ductless mini split or a ducted system or just radiators are old-fashioned. They're designed for burning coal originally and then burning gas at temperatures that coal also burned at. But okay, so moving away from those products, portables, these are the hydronic choices. Just to refresh you all from, I showed you Spacepack, but Arctic has been tested out in upstate New York as being the most reliable at the coldest temperatures like upstate New York needs. It's out of Canada. Stiebel Eltron, another great company, Aramec, Chiltrex, Nordic. I personally can stand behind Arctic, Spacepack, and Chiltrex as products that I know about that are strong. Ground source heat pumps. Okay. They're also called geothermal, and they're also called geo exchange. Water Furnace is kind of the big deal company. And these other products, Nordic, York. Nordic is a big brand. York is a big brand. Geostar I know less about. Bosch, enormous global brand. Not a coincidence Bosch, like out of Germany. Because as you get into Germany altitudes, or latitudes, pardon me, which is more like central Canada latitudes, when you just get up that far up, it can get some really extreme cold temperatures in the wintertime. And before we had computers and heat pumps, which starts only in 2009, and has just gotten into heat pumps in a more standardized way in the last 3 to 4 years. It's true much more so in the rest of the world that people are using computers. The United States just had very low efficiency standards since like 1981. We've always had super low efficiency standards compared to everywhere else. We just haven't had rapid acceleration of the use of computers. So ground source heat pumps, which always accessed very warm ground, made sense in climates like New Jersey until, I don't know, 2013, 2014, when there became significant market penetration of computers into air source heat pumps. And once you have a computer in it, then it allows the heat pump to go to like -30 Fahrenheit, depending upon the product. Now, I'm going to pause here because do either of you have questions you want to chat about ground source heat pumps? The two of you that are your case study examples? Because you hear me kind of trash talking it, but I know that they're awesome. My business partner has one. I grew up with friends who had ground source heat pumps. I'm just sort of like teasingly trash talking them.
So yeah, maybe Tom and John, you can unmute yourself so we can start chatting. John, can we go to you?
Sure, mine's a carrier, and it's on there when it was put in, and I've forgotten the exact date. It's about 15 years old at this point.
So when you any of these heat pumps, you might think of them as like 20-year products, not because the ground loop can't be replaced or is like failed. That might be much longer lasting, but things can get shocked or just damaged by water. Like some things can fail, but heat pumps can last 40, 50 years, depending. So maybe your product needs to be replaced or maybe it doesn't. What do you think?
It did spring a leak a little while ago, but that was just one of the fittings that they were able to rebraze. So it's been good so far.
It's the circuit boards that torture people. Like you want to, like anything that's technological that's 20 years old, it's like, how do you get that thing? It's like a different version of computer. So, well, it sounds like you could just keep on trucking with your ground source heat pump, hey? No.
Yeah, that was pretty much that's what, there was no change at this point.
Okay. So then I'm going to go back to our slides as we go through your case study. Okay. Now, the car charging, you want to get the electric vehicle, and we talked about ditching the 19 kW Generac and getting a truck. You'd need a Ford to get 19 kW. You wouldn't get that out of a car necessarily, unless you just need more and more battery. And the cars are usually 60 kWh batteries, kilowatt hours. And the Ford is 100 kilowatt hours to 130 kilowatt hours. And it's just designed for supplying more power. Now, I think that, here's your water heater next to your ground source heat pump downstairs, right? We talked about that being probably a good place.
It doesn't know what it is. It came with two labels. It came with a carrier label and a Bryant. You put one on and it says Bryant.
So do you have any other questions before I move on to the next case study? The things you want to chat about?
I don't believe so. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. This is always fun. Thank you. I mean, thanks for putting yourself up for public examination.
And we want to hear when you get it done, John. We want you to come back and share the photos so we can keep updating people and looking at, what hurdles everybody had in actually implementing the suggestions for, this kind of work.
John had talked about the ease with which he's able to create the water source. And John, can you tell us about that? You had a well, you just reused it.
Yeah, right. I'm on well and septic here, so we already had the well for the supply, and it's an open loop system, which means you pull it out of one well and you dump it into a second well. So we had to have a second well installed at the time. I have forgotten how much that cost, but in the existing well, they replaced a standard well pump with a variable speed Grundfos, and that's been in there for all those years. Did have to replace the automatic speed control on it a few years ago because that went bad, but so far, knock on wood, the pump in the ground is good, but the controller, which didn't have to go into the ground to replace, that's sitting in the basement, did die on us. So
Well, that's good. The variable speed stuff, which is come on with like better computers and circuits, that is the real efficiency gain, because when you have a single speed, it's like, the old-fashioned bicycles where it's just one speed. And like I used to ride those, but it's hard to ride up a bicycle hit like a hill.
right.
And cold weather and cold ground or warm ground, all those things are a hill. So it's nice to have variable speeds, multiple gears.
The variable speed is good because if the irrigation system is on, that's taking pretty much water, but if you still want to have water inside the house, and if the geothermal kicks in, well, that's 3 loads essentially on it at one time. So originally they said there was going to need a 1 1/4 inch pipe from the well, but they said no, it'll work fine on your existing 1 inch, so they didn't have to dig up to replace that. So that was good. So it was just one new well and a 1 inch pipe going out to that one.
That's cool. I've seen someone do, in that booklet, there's a case study of someone who did that open source ground source heat pump essentially. And they just dumped it into a creek. That seemed very nice. Like just adding a little bit of water to the creek that was flowing by.
I just wanted to have a quick break to let everybody know if they want to share a future case study with us, to please email it to Steve Miller. And these are some of the items that we're looking for so we can help you on the next show before we go to our next case study, to ask questions. And there's also some great, calculators, Rewiring America, which I will put into the chat as well. If you want to see how much money you could get by zip code and your income. There's also an awesome electrification guide along with Sean's electrification guide that we'll put in the chat. So you've got that as well. So there's some just amazing kind of cheat sheet about, when you purchase an electric vehicle, what the IRA Act will give you, as well as installing solar, home storage, other investments that you can make. And then, of course, we've got Sean's pocket guide that Tom did a lot of work on as well. And we'll be putting that again in the chat so everybody has that. And then we have a lot of YouTube videos on our Climate Reality website. So you can watch a lot of the past shows that cover a bunch of different case studies as well. We have one that's great that's kind of on heat pumps and, cool fact about how a heat pump water heater saves as much energy as 6 solar panels. So we really hope that you will, definitely think about giving us a case study for our next show and having us back again too. So I'll hand it back over to Sean and I'll put those links in the chat.
All right, cool. Thanks very much, Tristan. Appreciate that. So our next house, the Brankner residence. So check out the house. Nice old house. Blown in insulation is spotting walls in the attic. I love that. My blown in foam insulation. You can see where it is and isn't, depending on where the algae grows on the walls.
No algae, not yet.
So the steam radiator in each room, I spoke to this earlier. This is not a problem you can solve with a ground source heat pump because they're capped at about 130 Fahrenheit. You could take 130 Fahrenheit water and put it into an electric resistance steam boiler. And those are real common. It's just a commercial product, a steam boiler. It just raises the temperature up to 160 to 180, if that's what you're trying to do, ground source, and then to electric resistance boost.
Well, actually,
But it would be better.
Where I'm at with this whole thing is I'm just beginning. And so what I'd like to do is go to some of those very efficient appliances that you were just talking about. The ground source hot water heater, as well as heating and cooling. You seem to not like the geothermal, mainly because I guess you're saying the air can be variable, but can't you get a variable geothermal? I mean, it seems to me that, you know, a constant 55 degrees in the ground is nice as a source, no?
You're right. The constant source is great. 55 degrees is a wonderful place to start with. It's the cost. You know, my profession is in affordable housing. So I study how much things cost. And a ground source heat pump is not differently expensive. The heat pump is not differently expensive from an air source heat pump. They're almost the exact same thing. One has a big fan on it. That's about it. But the ground source heat pump requires the installation cost, and that generally is $20,000 of additional cost. So you take a system that might be $15,000 and it becomes $35,000. You know, it's more than twice as expensive. That's where I get a little bit dicey about them. And so your situation of having a backhoe, rock on. Like I was trying to speak to the fact that there's great ground source heat pumps. You know?
Okay.
But it's just not common to have your own. And
I have a
it's just,
very good
you know,
wife.
So I think that the steam radiators is really the thing to talk about. And those Yagas, I'll bring those back up here for us to revisit for a second. Okay, stop that share and reshare this. Okay, so Yaga, not a surprise, it's over in Europe where it's super common to have heat pumps. Not the United States is just working this through, but Eurasia as a Atlantic to Pacific continent as a whole has been moving quickly towards heat pumps, and particularly since the Ukraine war started, oh boy. We've got hired by like a German boiler company because they were ending their manufacturing of German boilers, which they've been doing for only years. And they're ending it this year. And they're like, done. We're not even any of them anymore. So the efficient convectors on the left-hand side, well, efficient convectors that we have in here, they have different looks to them. And some of them can do air conditioning as well. So as you go through each one of them, you can go through and find if that look and such has the air conditioners. If it has air conditioning, it means it has a fan, because cold air falls. And so you just don't get air conditioning from a ground, like a floor mounted device, a radiator. That doesn't work. So, and also the temperature of the water that they're sending through that's chilled is not that cold unless it has a fan to blow it. And then it's like, oh, a nice cold breeze. But it needs the fans for air conditioning. But if that's how you want to roll, you do have like the ability to do cooling and heating from the same baseboards. And they can look pretty slick. They're very like flat up against the wall. I'm going to put this in the chat just so everybody can have access to it. So now we can say, like, independent of your ground source heat pump, you should do it. Go get a water furnace, get a Carrier, get a York, get any one of those products that we're just looking at, right?
Okay. Yep.
It's not having Carrier in there. There's a number of products. There's so many products that we didn't put in here just because we've like ran out of space, more or less. It's only 130 pages long. And I had mentioned to you that generally I'd recommend against putting a water heater attached to a ground source heat pump. I'd also recommend against people putting water heaters attached to air source heat pumps that are for the house. The reason why, these products here, they range between 13,000 and 78,000 BTUs, 14,000 to 85,000. These are different products, just so we're clear, not the one product that does that wide of a range. You only get about a 3-to-1 range from the lowest to highest of any heat pumps. 4-to-1 is an exceptionally good product. So this 13,000 BTU product here, that's not gonna, its final heat pump capacity is not gonna be more than about 40,000 BTUs. That's the range you're gonna get. Now, water heating is a 4,000, like a 1,000 to 4,000 BTU job. So none of these heat pumps produce hot water at the rate that a heat pump water heater generally would work, which is a 4,000 BTU heat pump. And they can be less, but that's generally what they are. So the problem is you end up running your system, a gigantic heat pump, for a little tiny load, and it's called short cycling. And it's generally a bad thing for mechanical systems to turn them on and then turn them off quickly. That's just like, they don't want to be turned on and off lots. They want to actually be just left on and turned up and turned down, which is why the variable pumps that we're talking about with John are so important. It's just leaving things on, but varying their work is better. Pardon me. So this doesn't, pairing a water heater with a ground source heat pump or an air source heat pump that's a space heating system designed for 36,000 BTUs doesn't go with a 4,000 BTU or less load. It produces short cycling and product degradation and shortening of its life cycle, and all those things are pain in the butt when you have a big old heat pump. You have like the water heater breaking the entire house's system, and you have these two connected. It's always a bummer when you can't take a shower and the house is cold. When you have them separated, you can get warm somehow. Okay, so go ahead. You have a thought there?
Yeah, no, I was just, I was wondering, I have a lot of, a big lot next to me, so I could actually put a hot water heater, ground source heat pump on one line, and then the other, I was going to dig like 3 trenches and put in the tubing for the house separate from the hot water heater.
You are correct. You're so funny.
Why?
You want to use that backhoe so bad.
Absolutely. You know, it needs work. Its name is Rocky. It needs to work.
So what you're looking for is smaller than anything I'm familiar with.
Okay.
Because the ground source heat pump is generally, sort of by definition, almost linked to a 2-ton or 3-ton load. And the water heater is so small. So it's not that it isn't a good idea. That's an efficient way to collect heat, no doubt. Go have fun.
Okay.
You know, but I don't know exactly how to guide you other than to say, it sounds like, and are you going to be doing a recirculation, or are you like John Wheeler where you have a source of water you're going to be pulling up and then dumping? Sounds like you're doing just a recirc loop, right?
Yeah, recirculation, yes.
Okay, so you're going to be using propylene glycol almost certainly, because it doesn't freeze. And then you need to go to find a small water source heat pump, and they make these for apartments. So water source heat pumps and ground source heat pumps are the same thing, but a water source heat pump is something that by definition works in smaller amounts as well as larger amounts. You'll just go find the thing that you're looking for, a 4,000 BTU,
Okay.
6,000 BTU water source heat pump. And I don't know, man, if you have do you have a big swimming pool? Swimming pool. Do you have a big
no swimming pools.
do you have a heated swimming pool? Because this would be great for what you're doing. I was just thinking, do you have a big bathtub? Because a 14,000 BTU heat pump like the Sanco 2, that the carbon dioxide one I was showing, that one is, if you have a big bathtub, then your ground source heat pump loop could sort of make sense.
Okay. All right. So what I'm hearing is it's overkill for
Yes.
normal usage. Okay, that's fine, because then I won't do that. I mean, simple as that. So
I don't know. You don't have to be normal. I'm not normal. I'm in a house, man, and I love it. I don't claim to be normal. I celebrate my weirdness. And if you have a backhoe and a reason to use it, I encourage you to go out there and show the lower limits of super efficient heat pump water heating. You go.
okay.
You like contact me afterwards, and I'll just keep on finding these products for you. I wasn't really. Yeah, we'll do it. I'm not joking. It'll be fun.
Okay. All right.
More power to you. So you like your range. That's cool. I'm strongly encouraging to at least separate your water heating system from your ground source heating system. That's a good idea. And generally, a ground source heat pump, probably with electric resistance backup, because you're going to put it in your basement.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That looks like we pretty much got you done.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, are there some questions that we should answer online from the side, or anyone who wants to ask their questions? Like you can just like blurt out, I need to know. Let's see. What do we got?
Or put your question back in the chat if we did not respond to it. I think a lot of people are still asking about, how do I learn more about the IRA rebates? How do I actually find out where to get them and access them? And, some people sharing that it's more next year and so on and so forth.
I have a whole bunch of IRA slides here I'm just going to bring up, okay? And I'll show you, I'll give you this is how the IRA works.
And I did put in the chat Steve's great link, and I'll do it again, to some of the current and anticipated rebates.
Yes.
Wow. It's like a cool download file from his website.
Okay. So here we have the rebates you guys are talking about, the high efficiency electric home rebates. HERA. Note that they are for 100% of this value here is if you are below which
John, you need to say that again. Maybe turn off your video.
Between 80%. Oh, sorry. I'll turn off my video. Sorry. Okay. You can see that be under the 80% of area median income in order to qualify for 100% of the value that you see down here. You get half of that value if you are between 80 and 150% of the area median income. All right. So that means if you're middle income, and lots of people are, by definition, like this probably captures 75% of America or so. And if you're up 25%, bless you, congratulations. Sorry, I've got some sort of skinhead who is, hold on for just a moment. Hey, I'm giving a presentation right now.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry to bother you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, maybe it goes away now. So, okay, this is the same information, just put in a different slide, because I went to 5 different presentations and took screen captures of the best slides. Now, what I just showed you before was, I mentioned it's for new and existing, but you are income qualified. Now, if you want to skip the income qualification, and that money is going to go into programs and specific contractors that are, each state is going to have different rules. So New Jersey has completely different rules from California or New York. It's New Jersey's rules on how that money that I just showed you, the HERA rebates, how that money gets to you. And that process has just begun to be laid out by the Department of Energy. They have issued guidance, and states now have to respond with how they want to implement that guidance. So this, though, is fixed. We know the answer to this. The IRS has issued guidance, and this is for everybody. So what it is up to $3,200 a year and provides 30% off for the things that you're doing. Now, each year, only you get $2,000 for heat pumps and heat pump water heaters. And then there's $600 for the panel, $1,200 for weatherization, which is like going around with caulk or getting better windows, the energy audit, and other stuff like the stove, electrifying your stove, or electrifying your laundry dryer, or your swimming pool. So this deal, annual credit limit resets every year. So $3,200 is the limit, and every year you can do another $3,200 of improvement, which functionally means $10,000 of stuff, and you get $3,200 back, right? About 30%. So for every 10 grand that you spend, you get $3,200 back or so, and it's annual cap, so you can do 10,000 grand of stuff per year. And I don't think that you can carry it over, but I don't know. I can understand, like, what if I did $30,000? Can I take that credit of $3,200 3 years in a row? I don't know. That's something for a CPA. I haven't researched that. On solar. Okay, so solar before the Inflation Reduction Act was at 26% and it was about to go down to 22% tax credit. It is now at 30% and it's fixed for the next 10 years. If you are low income, then you can get more. So if the solar is in a low income community, 10% more, so it's 40% off. That 10% more also happens if it's manufactured in the United States. I don't have that on this slide, but there's some solar panels that are manufactured in the USA and more every day. There's been so much investment because of the Inflation Reduction Act. Like more than 200 factories have just been started for vehicles, batteries, solar panels, etc. And then I work in affordable housing. So I show my clients this, that there's another 20% if you give the solar benefits to the tenants. So it's not just for the laundry machines and the common areas, it's for the tenants. And so you can get 50% off. Low income community and to the tenants, a total of 20%. And you can basically go up to 50%. And you can get 10% if it's in the United States. And another 10% if in the United States it's in a coal community, a community where coal has been mined. So you can get 70% off solar panels. Some of them depending on where they're being installed, where they're manufactured, and where they're installed. But all of you have access to 30%. So that's the basic 3 incentives that are out there. Here's your solar. Note that it applies to ground source heat pumps. This is important. There was a special exemption, and this is a little different. All the other kinds of heat pumps, they go into this one, 25C. Air source heat pumps, $3,200. That's a 30% tax credit, but it's capped. Ground source heat pumps, they're in the uncapped tax credit and they get 30%. Oh, that doesn't make sense because usually they cost like $30,000. And air source heat pumps that are over here can be $6,000 for just a ductless mini split to heat a small apartment or a small house. Yeah, $6 grand, $7 grand, $8 grand. It's definitely within that $10,000 sort of ideal spot that you get 30%, $3,200. So ground source heat pump, folks, here you go. This is the right tax credit. It used to be called the investment tax credit. Now it's the residential clean energy credit. It's still 25D. That's its letter name for your tax preparers. Okay. So
I saw another question in the chat from Gabriel. In New Jersey, are batteries necessary to support full rooftop solar panels, or is that just only needed in California where power shutdowns are frequent and long? What about waiting for batteries until electricity is charged on the time of day basis?
Yeah, in New Jersey, you do not need, when you say full, I want to be clear. If you were trying to run your house off grid in New Jersey, no connection to the grid, you would need something like the amount of battery, the F-150. Like that's the amount of battery that you need sort of plugged into your house. And then you need a solar array. Then instead of being like 100% offset in a year, you need it to be, so instead of being like, say, 5 kilowatts on your roof or 6, it would be like 16 or 17 or 20. That's for off grid, which you could call full. It just means it's a lot of battery and a lot of solar, mostly, well, exclusively to deal with the winter time when you have long, cold, cloudy days and no sunshine coming in. Okay. Now, if you're talking about how to get rid of your utility bills, it changes from state to state. And yes, in California now, they've made it so that when you are exporting electricity into the grid, it's worthless. There's no value. So it would be great for you to plug your truck in then, or some other battery, or pre-cool your house. Like they'd like you to, if you have a solar array, chill your house during the middle of the day when your sunshine is making electricity, as opposed to chilling your house at 5 or 6 in the evening when your solar panels aren't. So, and I don't know in New Jersey if you guys get paid for electricity that you export, like we no longer do in California. which is so upsetting. And I so support the lawsuit that says they did a terrible job of implementing state law, because they did, jerks. But nonetheless, I don't really know the deal in New Jersey, and I apologize. If you do get some value for exporting it, like say half of the amount that you get paid for, or 2/3 the amount that you get paid for electricity that you're consuming, then yeah, you just have to put some more solar up there, and it'll lengthen the amount of time it takes to pay back from like 3 years to 6 years, or from 6 years to 10 years, depends upon how expensive electricity is in your area. The more expensive electricity, the faster you get paid back. And also, the more bids you get, if you get only one bid for your solar array, you're going to pay a lot more. Guaranteed. You always get 3 bids. And then carefully look at those 3 bids and a fourth. Yeah, so that'd be my best answer, is that you probably need, I think, somewhere between 3 and 7 kW for your house to offset your utility bills, depending upon if it's like an 1,100 square foot house and you're kind of efficient, or a 3,000 square foot house that's also kind of efficient, or maybe not that efficient. 3 to 7 kW. And then there's people with gigantic houses, and waste is built into large houses. Study this a lot. It's like the nature of the structure. There's just so much space, and people plug in so much stuff, and that becomes this gigantic load, is filling space with stuff. And all those stuff things, the extra refrigerators, the extra TVs, the extra, just all this stuff, it just uses so much more electricity. And it's not people being inefficient or immoral. They just have a really big house. So that's how it is. And those houses need more, like 9 kilowatts. Okay, hopefully that answers the question, kind of. Oh, and I know, how would I, maybe next time I'll give you guys guidance on how to turn your gas bill into a solar array size. A lot of people want to figure, like, if I have my gas bill, how much solar electricity do I need? And I can teach you really easily how to do that. Maybe that'll be next time. It'll be fun. Okay. Want maybe one more question before we're at the end of our hour and a half time? Oh, yeah, Tom wants to start a fight over in the chat.
Please, feel free to unmute yourself if you have a quick question that maybe we didn't answer fully in the chat. Or Tom, if there's one you want to spotlight that was a question that maybe a lot of people would be interested in as well.
Oh, Gabriel, you asked about 16 kW, 40 panels. Okay, 16 kW is enormous as a PV array. Okay, so for each apartment, I put in, for 100% solar offset for their annual consumption, it's usually about 3.5 kilowatt to 4.5 kilowatt. So you're consuming the equivalent of 4 apartments, which are like 5-person households. So now that we've established that that is the size of a 4plex's worth of solar, I don't know how big your house is. Maybe that's what you should be doing. I don't know. Your EV, you say you have an EV, you need about 2 kW for every car that's driven 12 to 14,000 miles. Okay, so if you have a car with one person driving it and you have a normal commute and you're doing your normal thing, a normal commute is 30 to 37 miles round trip. If you're doing that, then you're driving about 12 to 14,000 miles. That's how America is. And that takes 2 kW of solar up on the roof. So if you had 2 cars, that's 4 kW, and of 2 drivers, like you and a partner or whatever teenager has your car, that kind of story. So if you had 2 cars, now you're down to 12 kW, and 12 kW is, in my estimation, like a 4,000 square foot house, perhaps with a hot tub, or maybe also like a swimming pool, a 3-season swimming pool, 2-season swimming pool. I know they can use a lot of energy, and if you don't, especially if you don't use a cover, they use twice as much electricity as a swimming pool does if you don't put a cover on it, just so you know. So you can save a lot there. So that's my answer to Gabriel. I think 16 kW is too much. I think that you should be a case study next time. We'll just focus on your gas bills. And we'll right size your post heat pump kind of conversion. So yeah, that's what I got for you. Let's see. Oh, and he says, Gabriel says, the New Jersey house has 5 bedrooms. Okay. 2 EVs, 2 heat pumps, right? Because it's got two floors probably, and 1 heat pump water heater. That needs 16 kW. And you didn't say swimming pool, but you didn't say hot tub, right? So I say you need a 6 kW to 8 kW system for your house. And then you need 2 kWs. And so I think you need a 10 kW system, maybe 12. Like depends. It really depends on how people behave with their stuff. Not like how you are personally, it's just your stuff. So yeah, I think that's oversized by like maybe almost twofold, but like at least 50% oversized. And room for expansion. I don't know, you're gonna put an accessory dwelling unit? Like, are you building another house into your garage? Sure. Then you've got an extra 4 kW. Are you running a swimming pool outside? Go for it. Setting up like a free community Tesla fast charger. I know someone who does that down in Silicon Valley. He lets everyone charge on his Tesla fast charger for free because his wife is a well-paid doctor and he is best.
That's a nice guy.
And
That's a nice guy.
Hey, Sean, we do have a question. When is our next show? And so, Sean, we want to get on your calendar to do another one here for New Jersey.
Well, Gabriel said that he does have a swimming pool in the plans.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, if you
Gabriel,
have
we want to come to your house.
that's cool. No, but I mean, I still think that we should look at your gas bills and think about. I mean, it sounds like you are a person who doesn't have much of a budget concern. I'll say it again. I work in affordable housing, and so I just can't stop myself from thinking about what the budget is. But a 16 kW system will definitely protect you against all storms. And I don't know, Tristan, you're in charge of the calendar. When's our next one?
Yes, we want to, Steve, what would work for this group so that we can check Sean's calendar to make it happen again.
Okay, I'm on mute.
Monday and Tuesdays, we kind of do the second Monday or Tuesday a month, or the third Monday or Tuesday. How's your calendar looking, Sean? 4 o'clock our time, 7 o'clock your time.
Right, yeah, that's fine. Are you saying like next, or
if we assume in 1 month, it would be the same as the third Monday of September. It's most likely to be available. I can't check it because I need to log in.
Well,
look at the calendar.
I'm having a conference, like a real nerd conference in the 19th and the 20th. So I would love it if it was like Monday the 11th. I have that on my calendar right now, Monday the 11th.
Yeah,
or
the Monday the 11th is good too.
If other people are cool with that, I'd happily come back, and I don't know if Tom's cool with that too.
And what about the 25th, Sean?
The 25th is also fine. Yeah. The next day on the 26th, I'm going to residential electrification in Malaysia. The State Department has me representing the United States as a US speaker. And so now I'm getting speaking engagements in other countries. I have a 3 Mondays workshop, or Tuesdays, 3 Tuesdays. So I would say the 11th is nicer than the 25th because I'm going to have my head in the game for Malaysia.
Okay, I need to get back to you because I can't get to my calendar, the Zoom calendar right now.
All right. Well, we'll talk soon. We'll have the emails can go out. And in the meantime, thank you all. That was a pleasure. I hope
Thank you, Sean.
Well, I'd like to thank Sean very much. Your ideas are, as usual, inspirational and practical. And thanks, Tom Cabot, for your answers in chat. And thanks, Tristan, for opening as the host. And thank you for 62 attendees tonight. And we had something over 110 registrants. I wanted to make a proposal here. There's an opening for two types of people for future shows. One is the type of show you just heard for people who like to be part of a case study so you can learn how to modernize and electrify your house. And we do something like we did tonight. The second type of person would be success stories, where over the next several months, I'm looking for people who have installed heat pumps or upgraded their houses, many different ways. And I'd like you to tell us how you decided on that path and how you did it, whatever you did. So if you're either type of those people, I'm interested for future shows. So with that, that's about all.
Steve, maybe put your email one more time in the chat.
I will do that right now.
And Steve is great about sending up a follow-up email to everybody. And Sean, if you have that PowerPoint that you shared with kind of any overview or the pocket guide or something like that, feel free to send that our way so we can share it with everybody. Or your IRA rebate one, whatever you feel would be great. We appreciate that.
Okay, will do.
And thank you most of all to Tom and John, who were our case studies tonight. You guys are awesome. Please keep us posted.
No problem.
Need
Okay.
photos of the backhoe quickly.
Yes, thank you to all those people.
I want the photo of the backhoe with your wife next to it, like giving a thumbs up sign. So there's but this is okay.
You know, she bought it for me for Christmas 2 years ago, so I think it's okay.
Yeah.
So cute. You know, I had a backhoe show up once. I was dragging a straw bale tiny house to my house that had been built elsewhere. Transgendered, homeless farm worker. We built a straw bale tiny house. Beautiful. The house comes over, the backhoe, and I asked the backhoe guy, will you dig a pond in my backfield here? It's like the wet spot, and we'll get like a little wetland going. It'll be so pretty. And it is. And there, his girlfriend would show up day after day. It's like 2-3 days. And in like high heels and go through my field in her little high heels, and she would sit on the thing while he's smoking weed, which is an important part of this because this guy had green teeth, and she was like his honey mama, his Humboldt honey is what it's called in Humboldt County where I am. So it was such a scene of his wife, just like this girlfriend sitting there, like, yeah, this is my man. This is my man with the backhoe, and she would in her high heels. I wish I had a picture, but I loved that. Okay, so anyway, hopefully we see a picture someday. You guys all have a nice evening.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Good night, everybody.